All right, Madelon White, welcome to the Agent Academy podcast.
Thank you
We
for
were just
inviting me.
talking before about some of the stats that you've had in the last 30 years of being in the industry. And two of them that are just so impressive to me is being in the 1%, top 1% of Ray White consistently. And you've sold close to 1,700 homes in your 30 years.
I certainly have, and many of those several times over. And it's
That's
interesting to see what people have done or not done to those houses in that time.
Oh, I could imagine. Is there anything else when you start to reflect on your career that you're incredibly proud of? I know those numbers are kind of easy to, they sound good, but is there any real moments in your career that stand out?
I had one a few years ago that a lady stopped me at an open home and said, "I just want to thank you for changing my life." And I thought, "Oh, this is really interesting." So we just had a discussion about what had happened earlier before I started in this career, and she said that actually changed her life, and she went and did a PhD. And I
Wow.
thought, wow, you don't realise often the things you say or the things you do can make or break someone's life.
Wow. I love that. Were you a bit blown away or?
Oh, totally, totally.
And what, when I think of, 30 years, I'm only probably, just over 10 years into my working career. So to spend 30 years in one career, what's changed in 30 years? I know the easy thing is probably to say everything, but what's maybe stayed the same and what are the things
Um,
that you've seen
I
change in the industry?
think when I started, there was no internet. There was a microfiche that we used to slide this thing round and get the DCC information, Dunedin City Council information. We used to work, so that we'd go to work at 10 and leave at 3. We'd have coffee from 10 to 11. We didn't write vendor reports. We would actually learn to handwrite a contract. We learned to handwrite each clause, like who's it for, what's it for, who's doing what, and what by what time frame. So someone can give me a curly one, and I can say, "Look, hold on here, I'll just write up this clause for you," because I remember from what I learnt back then. I
Sure.
think sometimes what happens now is because we've got all these additional clauses already in our contracts, the agents don't actually think what is this for and who's it going to impact, and actually explain it properly to their clients. And I think too, there's so much DocuSign happening now, which is it's fantastic to have that opportunity, but you're not sitting belly to belly with your clients. You're not explaining what are the consequences of these clauses. It's like people say, "Hey, I've been finance approved," but actually, what are the conditions of your finance?
Mm.
And they go, "Oh, I'm not really sure." Well, does the bank need to see the sales and purchase agreement before they sign off on it? Because you could be pre-approved, but the property may not be. So it's digging in a wee bit deeper. And I think if you're not having that face-to-face, belly-to-belly conversations, you miss out on a lot of information.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I think, especially for even my take on what's happened over the last couple of years with AI and the amount of content that gets produced, the amount of information that I see out there, and I look at it and I go, does that person actually understand the model, the concept, or the idea that they're actually looking to bring across? Or is it just like, give me 10 ideas that'll sound interesting online, and that's exactly what you're talking about, those clauses. Like, do real estate agents actually understand what it means, how it affects the vendor, how it affects the buyer, how it affects the entire process
Mm.
coming
I
together?
don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people do. And I think with the newer generation, the young generation, I'm the old generation, we do it differently because we have started differently. Um, and I must admit, I prefer spending time with clients. It's the same as when I do an appraisal. I think of how different it was back then. Um, when I first started, it was one page to a listing agreement. It was full fees for 4% plus 400 plus GST. There was no commission reductions. It didn't matter. That's what it was. And I just think now it's so different that we're not spending time with people and actually asking them about their property, asking them about them.
Mm.
So when I do an appraisal now, I used to go walk around the house, take notes, always took notes, still do. But now I tend to sit down with my purchasers or vendors, whether it's doing the contract or doing the listing. So I sit down and say, "What is it I can do to help you?
So
And they go,
is that your perspective has maybe changed from it's less about the house and it's more about the person that I'm
absolutely,
servicing?
absolutely. Because
Yeah.
we are in a service industry.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people forget that. They just sort of look at how much am I going to make out of this sale? They're starting from the wrong end. You will get paid if you do the job properly. When you understand what is going on with the vendor, why do they need to sell? What do you need to do to help them? I learned that doing so many project management on properties to get them to the market. It's unbelievable. But I have my contacts and I go, well, okay, you need to do this and this. Do you want me to organise it? Great. I'll do that for you. So I've already taken a big problem off their shoulders.
It really sounds like you're just getting into the shoes of what it's like to be the vendor. I spoke with Gareth Hookham, who's one of the top real estate agents for Harcourts in Auckland, and he said, Mitch, I've just constantly reminded myself that although I've done it however many hundreds of times, it's still maybe the first time for the client, or they may not have done it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So it's a new experience for them. And for you to go and have this amazing career over 30 years, it really feels like every contact or every interaction you're having with people, it's like, no, this is could be the first time for them, and it needs to be treated with that perspective.
And it's actually about treating them with respect, not rushing in like a bull in a gate, thinking, I'll go and quickly list this house and I'll quickly get it on. Understanding what are the vendor's needs? How can I help them? What's their time frame? What do I have to do? How do I fix their problem? Because actually my job is a problem solver.
Totally.
I solve the vendor's problem, I solve the purchaser's problem. How do I do it? That's basically what it is. And I think if you treat people how you want to be treated,
Yeah.
It's not as stressful. They know they can ring you. They know that you'll always come back to them. And I think that communication is paramount. You don't do everything by text. You don't do everything by email. Actually talk to them, and then they know you care.
Without putting a blanket on, people that had come and gone in the industry, would you say that's one of the key things that you've seen where people have just gone, okay, I'm going to come into real estate, I'm going to hit the ground running, I'm going to make my, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, and then I'm going to get out, but they don't understand that by doing that, they're actually getting themselves into trouble. And the more lies or webs that they weave, it's actually more difficult for them to continue the longevity in their career. Rather, and it's like, if you've made a mistake, being upfront and honest, so that way you have that clear path to walk into. Would you say that's from your experience?
Absolutely. And if you make a mistake, own it.
Yeah.
Own it. And then they will have more respect for you. I mean, we're all human, but own your mistakes. But actually take the time to care about your client. They're the ones paying you.
Would you be able to break that down on how that actually sounds for a new agent? So, for example, if I've just signed my first listing, yay, go me. I've done something wrong in the process, or it hasn't gone how I said it was going to be. What kind of conversation would you have with the client, and how would you explain what's happened?
Well, I suppose it depends what it is, but it's actually sitting down with the client saying, okay, obviously there's been miscommunication here. How can we fix that? Because we want it to be a good open relationship between us. And they might go, I haven't heard from you enough. There's not been enough people coming through. And vendor feedback, from clients, it's really important for them to make an informed decision. But you've got to be upfront and honest with them. We're just here to give the story. We're here to tell the vendors what the people are thinking about your house. And I've sold houses before and I didn't like it when I was selling my own house, and people said I didn't like this and I didn't like that. And I thought, well, actually, I don't know if I want to sell it to you. So that's why my second house I sold, I didn't sell it myself, because you're too emotionally involved. And it's saying to them, well, I just need to be honest with you. This is what people are saying. But how do we fix that? Like, I've had houses, in fact, I just did it recently, where people go, oh, the house is a bit small. And I stand there and think, actually, what if I shifted the furniture around? So I text my vendors or talk to the vendors quickly and say, hey, do you mind if I shift the furniture around?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, great. So I take a photo and they go, oh, wow, it looks amazing. Because I say to people, how you live is different to how you present to the market. We want we would call it here Dunedin shop as a Mackenzie and Willis up, up market. We want it to make it look like that. We don't want it to look like low end. And sometimes it's just fine tuning stuff. And that's the same as like when we get the photos done. I like to go with the photographer. I like to make sure beds are straight, no electric blanket cords hanging down, toilet seats are down, towels are folded a certain way. And I say to my vendors, I'm the biggest pain in the neck ever, but I'm doing that for you. Because I know that if I change things, you'll get better money, it will get sold quicker, and everybody's a winner. But I put the time in to start off with. I don't rush in and say, we'll get the photos done now. It doesn't matter, because it does matter. Because if you haven't got good photos, nobody's going to come.
And did that confidence come from experience, or was that something in your early days that you just understood, look, I'm the professional, you've asked me to provide the service, I need to give you the advice on how I can provide my services to the highest level? Like if you go into a mechanic, you're expecting the mechanic to give you advice on what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, and in 3 or 4 months this is something that we need to look into because they're the expert. Is that something that you carried from the early days, or did you need to kind of build into it and build that confidence?
I don't think we did, because it was a bit different back then. Like we'd take one photo, it would go into the Otago Daily Times, and it was black and white. That was it. Like one printed photo. So we didn't have the internet. We didn't have that. So people would go to the local newspaper and look at it on a Wednesday, and there'd be an open home and on a Saturday. So we didn't have any of that internet stuff. So it was very different back in the dark ages in the 90s. I think it's actually maturity that has made me realise to sit back, ask the people the questions, and not be afraid to ask them. But I suppose too, possibly it's the maturity that people go, oh, she's been around for a long time, I can open up to her.
Sure.
Like I've had people tell me all different strange things about different circumstances, and think, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, whatever, So obviously people feel like they can talk to you.
And one of the big issues that I'd like to talk about is how to disassociate yourself from your work. I think sometimes people really intertwine their personality with their work. So if work's going really well, they're doing really well themselves. But then, if they miss an appraisal or they miss a few listings, like they really take that personally. How have you been able to keep this level of consistency? Is it mentally going, I'm not my work, I'm still a good person even though I missed that appraisal? Is it just constantly looking for feedback so you're always improving? Or I'd love to get into maybe, what are the mindset things that have allowed you to have this incredible career?
When I've missed out on a listing, I always ring them up and say, no, look, I totally understand. If it doesn't work for you, feel free to come back to me. Was there any particular reason?
Yeah.
Because it's good for us to learn. Like I go to every training thing after 30 years. I'm REAINZ licensed. I still go to training. Because every time you go to a training, you learn something.
Yeah.
Whether it's in conversation or whoever is taking the courses and stuff, you always learn stuff. So don't be arrogant, actually. The biggest thing is don't be arrogant. Always listen. And I don't get every listing. I go, oh, well, okay, well, I've had listings that someone else has sold. So there's enough to go round. Just put your big girl pants on and think, look, next.
Is that where you think it maybe comes from? Agents, they've just had a couple that have gone wrong and they maybe have a recency bias, and they've missed out on 2 or 3 in a row, instead of going, hey, look, if I don't continue doing the activity, I'm not going to get another 2 or 3 opportunities. Like you said, pull your pants up and get on with it and have a crack at the next one.
But I think sometimes you've got to step back and say, why have I missed out? Because I think often what happens is agents talk too much and don't listen. Don't let the vendors talk. That's why I always say, what can I do to help? I'm here to fix your problem. What is it? How can I help you? So...
What are some of the key things that you're trying to find out maybe in an appraisal or a listing presentation? Are there some kind of key components or, questions that you're trying to figure out?
Time frame, where they're heading, so what can I do to help? Do we need to do some stuff to the house, and often they don't tell you everything, but you often pick up stuff, and it's actually just, whether it's they're separating and they each tell you the story, it's keeping that in confidence.
Yeah.
That you don't share with the other party, that the other party's told you something. You know, we're here as a professional, but sometimes they need to offload onto someone. And that's fine. You know, so it's just being kind.
I actually relate that quite a lot to my mum has worked in retail for close to 40 years, and she always says that, you know, sometimes I'm just the channel for someone to, you know, get a bit of relief. And she hears stories of people being sick, or, you know, relationships breaking down, or she gets the anger or the frustration from, you know, someone else. And, you know, she always talks about not being able to take that personally because, you know, she's just showed up to work to do her job, and, you know, she can't control everyone else.
And you don't know what's going on in someone's life. Yeah. They could have just had a partner pass away, anything. So just be kind to people. You know, I guess that was how I was brought up from my mother. It's about being kind to people, and not being judgmental. Like, we never know what where people have come from or where they're going, and it's like, you know, something bad may have happened, but, you know, give them a chance.
Yeah, you don't know the full story. There's a story I heard a couple of months ago, and it was talking about a father was on the train and his kids were going crazy and they were running around screaming and causing an absolute pain to everyone. And, you know, after about 10 or 15 minutes, someone finally, you know, built up the courage to say, mate, can you calm your kids down or keep them close? And his response was, oh, I'm really sorry, we're just on the way to visit their mum in hospital, and they, you know, I just wanted to let them have some fun before we got there. And then the mood of the train goes from everyone being pissed off, frustrated, who is this guy, to everyone wanting to be able to help. So I love that, just being able to take a step back and go, I don't actually know the full story. I need to take this, you know, I need to take this, you know, what they've given me, but I can't take it on board personally.
But just be understanding. Yeah. Well, I come across a lot of people, especially single people, older people, and not everybody can do this, but I'm a hugger. So, and you can just see that they go, oh, they may not have had a hug for how many years, how many months. And like, perhaps it's my age, I don't know, could be. But, you know, I've never had someone that said don't, but you can see they're actually craving for that. So, like, my real estate, it's not just about the transaction. There's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes that people wouldn't know. But it's just being kind to each other.
I think there's some life lessons there, not just real estate lessons there, Madeline. That's amazing.
But I think it's that they know you care about them. It's not, you're not just there for the transaction to get paid. Because actually, if you start from that angle, and I mean, I've done it. I've seen people that I've worked with done it. They go, oh, good, we're going to make X amount. Never happens. They do lots of work and never make a cent. You know, so I always say to people, you need to have some money in the bank before you start, but just be kind. What can you do to help? So it's a different angle, I guess. But that's maturity.
I think everything you've spoken about is just a complete no-brainer while you've been successful for such a long period of time. And I'd maybe like to get into some of that longevity in terms of how you operate at such a high level. Are you someone that likes to work quite with an intensity and then to have a short break? Or have you kind of created this life where you're taking not, you know, big breaks through the week, but you're kind of having these mental resets?
I don't have any time off during the week.
Yeah.
I work 7 days a week. If I have to work at night, I work at night. I try not to work at night as much. Last weekend, I think I had 17 open homes. So I'm very organised, and we've got an amazing person who's snuck down next to me who helps with all the admin, and everything's organised. So I just walk in, pick up. Walk in and pick up. It's generally what I do. But I'm still passionate about it. I still love it. Like, I'm nearly 70, and I think, you know what, everybody can say, when are you retiring? And for the last 4 years, I'll say, this year, and it carries on and carries on. So I still enjoy what I do, but I am very organised. I like things in a certain order. I need to be able to pick up everything's in my folders. I know where everything is, because if one thing's missing, that unbalances me.
Mm. So when you talk about being organised, is that just in terms of you've got certain systems and structures in place for appraisals, your listings, your marketing? Is that just maybe like a list in, like a checklist for each property that goes live, or what kind of?
Yes, and I just hand it over to Bonna. She looks after everything. She knows what to do. So it's cool.
And
we work well together.
And have you always had a team structure, or is that something that you've kind of come and gone with?
I've had other staff that have worked within my team, but as I say, I'm trying to exit. I'm not doing a very good job at exiting. But I've often found actually when you've had a team, I was actually doing more work, keeping the team going, but also you're putting out fires. So for me, I have people that will come and help if I need it. But for me, I prefer to be, have everything, but having like someone like Bonna that is amazing in the background.
Mm. I've just written a couple of notes.
I'm a control freak.
I feel like there's a similarity between top real estate agents where they do have that essence of, they like to be in control. They like things done at a high level. It's important that things are done properly to serve their vendors. I'm really noticing that is a bit of a theme.
Definitely.
I've just taken a couple of notes. The three big things that I'm really taking away is, first of all, that kindness and that empathy. And when you talk about your, how long you've been in the industry and how much you're still working, for me, it feels like you don't really feel like you're going to work each day. It feels like you're just going to help your friends out. It really feels like you create these lovely connections with your vendors, and you're just going to help out a friend by selling their home, even though you've got this, structured and really refined process. You're just trying to help a mate out.
Yeah,
and
it's like
just that.
You build up a relationship.
Sorry,
you build up a relationship with them. So, and I'm not very good at just walking away. That's not how I've been brought up. You start something, you finish it, and you do a good job.
Mm. I think for anyone that's listened for the last 20 odd minutes, there's some really golden nuggets that they could take and implement into their business if they're brand new, or even someone that's, kind of going through a bit of a tricky part in their career. I'd love to be able to catch up in 6 or 12 months' time and be able to build upon this conversation, but it sounds like you're wanting to make the exit, but we might be on for another conversation in 12 months' time.
We could possibly be on for another conversation.
Well, either way, if we can get a conversation if you're still in the industry, or we might get a conversation as a over 30-year wrap-up of the industry, that would be great. But Madelon, thank you so much for your time. This has been brilliant.
That's a pleasure.